All right, welcome. Today, we're doing something really cool. We're cracking open the playbook of a true legend, retailer Kishore Biyani. We've taken one of his live brainstorming sessions and turned it into a concrete 40-day action plan for launching a brand from literally nothing. So, let's dive right in. I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, right? Building and launching a brand new brand in just 40 days? Going from just an idea to a real product on the market in a little over a month? But yeah, that is a challenge we are tackling today. And look, this isn't some theoretical thing. This is a high-speed, all-out sprint. And boom, there it is, straight from the man himself. The deadline? It's not a suggestion, it's set in stone. This quote really sets the crazy pace for everything we're about to cover. We're not talking about months of planning here. This is all about quick, decisive action. Okay, so where do you even start? Well, the first 10 days, they might just be the most important part of this whole thing. It's all about figuring out exactly who you're selling to, and maybe even more importantly, who you are not selling to. This is where you pick your battlefield. And Biyani's approach here is, well, it's pretty radical. He basically throws conventional wisdom out the window. You know, the idea of targeting the masses. For beauty products, he says there's only one market that actually matters, India 1. And get this, he defines it not by how much money you make, but by a simple lifestyle thing, whether a household has domestic help. So it's about targeting a behavior, not just a bank account. Now, don't let that laser focus fool you into thinking this is some tiny niche market. We're talking about roughly 12 crore people in this India 1 segment. Yeah, that's only about 10% of the population, but here's the kicker. This group is responsible for a whopping 85% of all beauty product sales. So the takeaway is simple. This is where the money is. All right, let's move on to phase 2. Now that you've locked in your target audience, the next 10 days are all about giving your brand a soul. This is where you figure out its identity, its price point, and its unique personality. So for the product they were brainstorming, a men's hairstyling spray, they landed on a magic number, 295 rupees. And believe me, this isn't just a number they pulled out of a hat. It is a very strategic calculation. And you might be asking yourself, wait, why not charge like 1,500 rupees and be more aspirational? I mean, a higher price usually signals quality, right? But the strategy here is totally different. See, at 295, the price is low enough to get people to just try it. And more importantly, it's about building a new habit. It's about being accessible inside an aspirational market, not pricing people out of it. So what's the story you're actually telling with this brand? Well, it's all built on a really sharp insight about modern consumers, especially young men. They don't see themselves as just one thing. They're multifaceted, right? You could be a student, a photographer, a gamer, a trekker, all at once. And hairstyling, that becomes a tool to switch between and express all these different identities. And this really brings us to a big shift in thinking. Think about the old way, like the hunting approach you saw with brands like Axe, really direct, kind of aggressive. Now compare that to the new way, the farming approach. This is all about cultivating a more subtle attraction. It's not about the chase anymore. It's about being recognized, appreciated, and liked for who you are. So all these ideas come together to form a brand with this really modern, edgy personality. The idea was to center it on a controversial celebrity, maybe someone like Aryan Khan. The whole campaign would show off multiple looks, reflecting those different identities we talked about. The tone, witty, sarcastic, very modern. And a possible name they threw out? Bad Flux. Kind of cool, right? It captures that whole idea of being in constant change. Okay, so we've got our market, we've got our story. Now for the big one, how do you actually get the product into people's hands? The next 10 days, phase 3, is all about the nitty-gritty, logistics, and your go-to-market strategy. This is really where the rubber meets the road. And the channel strategy here is super clear, super prioritized. You start with quick commerce, services like Blinkit or Zepto that can get it to your door in minutes. Now, why start there? Well, at that 295 rupee price point, going direct to consumer just doesn't work. The shipping costs would absolutely eat up your margin. So you start with speed and convenience, and then you expand into modern retail and other e-commerce platforms once you've got some momentum. All right, we are in the home stretch now. Phase 4, days 31 to 40. This is all about pure execution. And this is where Kishore Biyani says something that might surprise you. He claims this final sprint, it's actually the easiest part of the entire process. I know. For a lot of people thinking about starting a brand, this feels like the biggest, scariest part, right? Manufacturing, formulation. But in today's world, that stuff has pretty much become a commodity. There are huge networks of contract manufacturers out there. There are even AI tools that can help with formulation. The point is, you don't need to be a chemical engineer to get this done anymore. So what's your to-do list on day 31? It's actually pretty simple. First, hire a design firm to nail down that brand identity. Second, get online and find a contract manufacturer that specializes in personal care products. Third, register the brand name. That's it. Those are the concrete steps that kick off your final push to launch. And here it is, the whole thing tied together. This is your 40-day roadmap. Let's just run through it one more time. Days 1 to 10, define your battlefield. Know exactly who you're talking to. Days 11 to 20, craft your story. This is the heart and soul of your brand. Days 21 to 30, plan your entry. Figure out the nuts and bolts of getting it to people. And finally, days 31 to 40, execute the launch. When you break it down like this, you can see how it becomes a clear, repeatable, and unbelievably fast way to get from just an idea to a real product in the market. So, what this whole breakdown shows is that a really complex process can be turned into a simple, actionable formula. It's proof that if you have a sharp focus and you're willing to take decisive action, that path from a concept to a real customer can be, well, shockingly short. So the countdown is on. Your 40 days start now. The only question left is, what are you going to build?